Hello, I'm Julia, and today I am going to talk to you about ballet, which is one of the world's oldest forms of dance, but it is also one of the world's oldest art forms. So, ballet originated in Italy, specifically in Italian courts, and it was kind of a fancy thing that would really happen at parties, and it would be taught to by certain instructors. And it was taught to by teachers who had been experienced to the nobility and people of the courts, and not many people had really experienced it at that time in 15th century Italy. It was really started to become a very popular art form when Catherine de' Medici started to fund ballet in the courts in the 16th century. She was a huge fan of ballet, and she really enjoyed it. She specifically encouraged, she was a noblewoman who specifically encouraged the growth of Ballet de la Cour, which was a program that included dance, decor, costumes, songs, music, and poetry. So basically kind of like a play, kind of like you were watching theater that we all really know and love today. But overall, it very much encouraged the arts, which was very important to its growth. King Louis also helped popularize ballet, and he was also a dancer. So, and after many people realized that and many people saw that he liked it, people were encouraged to start liking ballet. By 1661, ballet was very popular and very known, and it was a very well-liked art form. So the first dance academy opened in 1661, and it was a very growing, very highly populated institution. But after 1661, ballet moved to the stage in 1681, and from there it continued growing, and more people started to really see it and recognize it as an art form. By the 1700s, ballet truly became its own art form, because before it was often associated with opera and theater, and it wasn't really its own thing, although it was very popular. But it finally became its own thing after that time period, and more people started to like it and to enjoy it. So ballet was finally brought to the U.S. Thanks to various international artists from all over the world. It came here a lot later than it had developed in other countries, that's just how it happened. So a very famous dancer named Adeline Jean was one of the first dancers who brought ballet to America, and what she did was considered toe dances, and it was more vaudeville than what we know of ballet as today. Anna Pavlova also, she was a very famous ballerina with the Mariinsky Ballet in Russia, and she also came here and helped develop a ballet culture in the United States. She toured with famous companies here in the U.S., and everyone here in America was really curious after that as to what ballet was. So after that happened, ballet really started to take off when Lincoln Kirstein and George Balanchine started the School of American Ballet in New York City. So that really took off, and that was about close to like the 1940s, 50s, and so they started SAB, as it's known, and it is still a very popular ballet school today in the United States. And from SAB came New York City Ballet, which is one of the biggest and most respected companies in the United States today. And George Balanchine specifically also developed a new style of ballet while he was here. He moved away from classicism and really developed what we know today as neoclassical ballet, and he did contemporary works. He did things that were different from what people had seen before. For example, instead of doing a pirouette, which is a turn, with straight legs, you did it from a bent leg. If you were in the New York City Ballet and School of American Ballet, that was just a style that he developed, and no one had ever really seen anything like that in the world, and his style is considered Balanchine style, and it is still very prevalent today and more than ever in American companies. So in the United States today, there are very many different ballet companies all across the country. There are big ones, there are small ones, there are regional ones, there are ballet schools, there's everything in between. Some of the biggest companies that are the most known across the United States are New York City Ballet, as I mentioned, American Ballet Theater, which is also they're both in New York, and they are right at Lincoln Center, which is a very famous art center, and it is a famous art plaza, and many different things are held there, such as the New York Philharmonic is also held there as well. Pacific Northwest Ballet is another famous company that is in Seattle. San Francisco Ballet, there is also Miami City Ballet. There are very many different companies that you can choose from anywhere that you go in the United States, which is really cool because ballet is truly an art form that is being even more appreciated today, and it is slowly starting to kind of creep into the masses with people like Misty Copeland being very big and people starting to use ballet in campaigns and magazine shoots. It's a very popular thing to do nowadays. So those are some of the big companies in the United States, but there are very many. Pretty much there are companies anywhere you look. So as also previously mentioned, Balanchine developed the neoclassical style of ballet, and that is what a lot of companies do today. They still do popular works such as Giselle and Swan Lake, but they have a lot of new works, and that is something that is very, very much a part of ballet culture right now. So although ballet may seem like a very stressful, hard art form, it is not always necessarily the case. For example, in my personal experience, I really enjoyed ballet, and I really had so much fun with it because, well, I did it recreationally. And it really helps you de-stress, and it's a good form of exercise that a lot of people don't necessarily think of, which is really nice. So it definitely helped me in a lot of ways. It was a good form of exercise. It helped me minimize stress, which is really nice. And it's not necessarily as much of a free-flowing art form as things could be like painting or drawing. Well, I mean, a lot of each art form has structure, but you can really find yourself as a dancer once you get to know ballet and as a person, and it can be really relaxing because there are two different parts to a ballet class. There's bar and center, and sometimes, when you have a bar and you're doing the class for that day, and you could be doing a combination and just doing something really simple and just kind of listening to the music and just focusing on dance is really calming and is almost kind of like a really interesting form of meditation, and for that reason I really enjoyed it. And there's something about dance that is such a unique form of expression that it's really hard to explain unless you do it, and once you do it, you realize why it's so beautiful, for sure, instead of watching it from far. If you do want to be a professional, it is very hard because you have to work really hard and you have to work for years, but it's definitely not impossible, and if you have the hard work, you can do it. So I hope you enjoyed my take on ballet, and I hope you learned something new. Yeah, thank you.